Good evening. Dear friends, Hanukkah is a festival of light and joy.
And light and joy brings us hope for a better future. With the vaccine at our doorstep, it seems that this year's holiday may truly mark the light at the end of the tunnel of great concerns that the corona epidemic has brought to all of us. I hope and pray that all of you, the members of our large museum family abroad and in Israel, will very soon start traveling again so that we will be able to see one another in person, like in the old days, and especially gather here in Jerusalem at the Israel Museum to enjoy once again the wonderful experience of an international council. Despite all the challenges of these difficult days, I am convinced that the management of the museum, headed by Ido and the devoted members of our board of directors, will continue to steer the museum in the right direction so that the museum will return as soon as possible to its glory days of early 2020 with tens of thousands of visitors as before the COVID outbreak. My friends, this evening, our Hanukkah candles, our Hanukkah lights will be lit by some special guests who are very dear to us. They will light a very modern and special Hanukkah lamp made by a talented friend of mine, the artist Dudu Gerstein, who, at least in my opinion, is one of the most colorful and optimistic artists in Israel. So very appropriate for this day. On this last evening of Hanukkah, joining you virtually from Jerusalem in this remarkable gallery of Hanukkah lamps collected from so many Jewish communities around the world, some of which no longer exist, we are delighted to celebrate with you once again in our beloved museum and thank each and every one of you for your support of the Israel Museum with so much devotion and so much enthusiasm throughout the years. God bless you. And now I would like Ido to come, and please, Ido, it's your turn.
Hi. So good evening again. It's really fantastic to be here and also have a good excuse to take off the mask, so thank you for that as well. Thank you, Itzik, for the beautiful words. We have a special program tonight that we've made especially for you, and it's really delightful to see so many members of our museum family together in one evening on the last evening of Hanukkah. You know that on Hanukkah, as we all know, which is a festival of lights, we all light the Chanukiah to commemorate the miracle of the small jar of oil that miraculously lasted for 8 days. But one of the fascinating features of light is that it is the darkness that defines the light. In other words, without darkness, there is no light. This struggle between light and darkness has many manifestations. One of my personal favorites is in our museum. The struggle between the sons of light and the sons of darkness, which appears in the Dead Sea Scrolls and was such a source of inspiration for architects Kiesler and Bartos when they designed the Shrine of the Book. Although this has been and most probably still is a most difficult time for everyone, throughout the past months the Israel Museum has remained active and dynamic, and we never lost our optimism. If you had been in the museum this week, you would have seen thousands of families choosing to celebrate Hanukkah with art and culture at the Israel Museum. Today and yesterday, we had over 1,500 visitors each day, an amazing attendance, especially when we take into consideration the constraints of the crisis, and a clear sign that the thirst for art and culture and the significance of our museum is living within people's lives. We are hopeful that it won't be too long before we can see one another again in person. We truly miss your presence in our galleries. And now for our festive program. Tonight, we will begin with a special surprise. Our dear friend Abe Sofer has graciously agreed to sing for us. It is a well-kept secret that apart from his many virtues and talents, Abe is an exceptional singer. Until we can all enjoy Abe live on stage at the Springer Auditorium at the Israel Museum in Jerusalem, we can enjoy this very special version of Mi Emalel that Abe has recorded for us with Ronit's wonderful assistance. So thank you, Abe. You are clearly a man of hidden talents. Let's hear you, please.
מי ימלל גבורות ישראל אותם, מי ימנה, הן בכל דור יקום הגיבור גואל העם. שמע בימים ההם בזמן הזה, מכבי מושיע ופודה, ויאמנו כל עם ישראל, יתאחד יקום ויגאל. מי ימלל גבורות ישראל אותם, מי ימנה, הם בקולו יקום הגיבור גואל העם. Here, today the threat is from a viral strain that's filled our world with sadness and with pain. But love and dedication shall prevail, restoring our museum's wondrous tale. Mi ymalel gvurot Yisrael otam, mi yimne, ein bechol dor yakum hagibor goel ha'am. Here, an army of goodwill and glorious strength arose and served the cause to every length, led by Ido and Yitzhak, workers' friends, made sure our people's story never ends. Goodbye and happy Hanukkah from Palo Alto.
Bravo, Abe. Thank you so much. Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we will shortly be lighting the Hanukkah candles on this lovely, colorful Chanukiah that Itzik mentioned, designed by artist Dudu Gerstein and donated by our dear friend Will Hechter in memory of his beloved grandmother, Bessie Rose Guberman. Will is with us. We've said hello before. Thank you, Will. Thank you very much. Will also sponsors free entrance every year for children during Hanukkah in his grandmother's memory, and we've seen a lot of these children come in the past days. So thank you very, very much, Will. I would like now to welcome some very, very special guests who participate in our Youth Wing programs, who will light the Hanukkah candles for us. They are led by Timna Shachar, Associate Curator for People with Special Needs. Please, my friends.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו להדליק נר חנוכה. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שעשה ניסים לאבותינו בימים ההם בזמן הזה.
מעוז צור ישועתי, לך נאה לשבח. תיכון בית תפילתי, ושם תודה נזבח. לעת תכין מטבח, מצרם נבח. אז אגמור בשיר מזמור, חנוכת המזבח. אז אגמור בשיר מזמור, חנוכת המזבח. הנרות הללו שאנו מדליקים, הנרות הללו שאנו מדליקים, על הניסים ועל הנפלאות ועל המלחמות ועל התשועות שעשית לאבותינו, שעשית לאבותינו בימים ההם, בימים ההם, בימים ההם, בזמן הזה. באנו חושך לגרש, בידינו אור ואש, כל אחד הוא אור קטן, וכולנו אור איתן. סור החושך הלאה שחור, סורה מפני האור. נר לי, נר לי, נר לי דקיק, בחנוכה נרי ידליק, בחנוכה נרי יאיר, בחנוכה שירי ישיר, בחנוכה נרי יאיר, בחנוכה שירי ישיר. חנוכה, חנוכה, חג יפה כל כך, אור חביב מסביב גילי ילד רך. חנוכה, חנוכה, סביבון סוף סוף, סוף נסוף, סוף נסוף, מה נעים מה טוב. סוף נסוף, סוף נסוף, מה נעים וטוב.
So, thank you very much, Shir and Lior, who accompanied us for some singing. I'm now pleased to introduce a virtual tour of our collection of 20th century Hanukkah lamps by curator Sharon Weiser-Ferguson of our Jewish Art and Life Wing, who's right next to me here. Sharon recorded it especially for this evening's event, and of course is here with us live to answer any questions. So please feel free to send questions and remarks by chat during the virtual tour, and then we can have an open discussion. So please.
Hello, I'm Sharon Weiser-Ferguson, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to an Israel Museum gallery that I'm sure many of you know well, our display of Hanukkah lamps. As you can see, the variety of lamps is vast, since there are no instructions regarding the design of a Hanukkah lamp, apart from some basic religious parameters. The shape of the lamps has always been influenced by local style, while their ornamentation naturally referred to the temple or to the miracle of the oil that lasted for 8 days. In many cases, the architectural shape of the lamp alludes to the temple, as you can see here in this lamp from Germany, or this lamp from Italy. I will now show you some lamps from our collection that are not on display. They're all from the 20th or the 21st century, and we shall see how Zionism on the one hand and contemporary design on the other hand influenced the shape of Hanukkah lamps over the course of a century. This lamp is from Bezalel School, founded by Boris Schatz in 1906. Its shape resembles traditional 19th century Hanukkah lamps, but like most pieces from this school, it also carries a Zionist message. As you can see, the medallions on the backplate of the lamp have symbols that are tied directly to the story of Hanukkah: the 7-branched menorah, the temple, a small jug for oil, but their images, as well as those that are here at the bottom, were inspired by ancient Judean coins that had been discovered in archaeological excavations. The idea was to recall the material evidence that emphasized the age-old connection between the Jewish practice of lighting Hanukkah candles and the land itself. In the early years of the 20th century, the connection between the people and the land was relatively subtle, but it became very clear with the founding of the State of Israel. As with the Bezalel lamp, local makers of ceremonial and decorative objects sometimes aimed at a deliberately ancient design. For example, this Hanukkah lamp from the 1950s was meant to resemble an oil lamp found in an archaeological dig. It even has an artificial green patina, which was a common touch in many of the modern objects made at the time. The Hebrew verse written on the lamp, "And the jug of oil will not run dry," from the Book of Kings, is a reminder of another miracle performed by Elijah the prophet. What is also interesting about this piece is that it is not really functional. In theory, you could use it with great difficulty. However, the main purpose was to buy an item that reflected your Zionist ideology and declare yourself as a supporter of the State of Israel, even if the item would just be decorative without ever being used. In some pieces that were made in the 1950s and 1960s, the historical story is no longer the issue. If 18th or 19th century Hanukkah lamps sometimes had depictions of the high priest lighting the temple menorah, here you see the hero holding the lamp, and he represents the typical Israeli wearing shorts and the emblematic Kova Tembel hat. He's holding the Hanukkah lamp here on the map of Israel, and the Hanukkah lamp is planted in Jerusalem. A small number 10 appears on his shirt, since the lamp celebrates Israel's 10th anniversary. This lamp depicts a meeting between the Maccabees and the Israelis as equals in Jerusalem. The Zionist movement searched for Jewish heroes, and the Maccabees who fought against cultural and religious oppression were such heroes. In the 20th century, they became a symbol of national Jewish revival and independence. Hanukkah became a holiday that celebrated the new Jewish identity. In this lamp, made in 1967 after the Six-Day War, the designer clearly equates the Maccabees and the Israelis, focusing on the human struggle rather than the divine miracle. The two groups meet at the walls of Jerusalem. We see here the Israeli soldier leading the group, which is made up of a farmer, a mother and child, the new generation, and a man holding a scroll. the Torah scroll that represents the connection to the Bible and to the past. They all carry torches, which reminds every Israeli of a popular song about the Zionists who carry torches in dark nights and find light not with God's help, but through hard labor. This Hanukkah lamp was probably designed for the many tourists that came to visit Jerusalem after the war, when the city was reunited, as you can see from the inscription, Jerusalem, in English. And if we're talking about Israeli soldiers as the new Maccabees, this is an interesting lamp that was made by soldiers using a handle of a rifle and decorating it with IDF symbols. It is like a concrete expression of the prophet's words, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares, which were sometimes inscribed on this type of lamp. During the same period, there were designers who created objects of artistic quality that were completely different in style. This Hanukkah lamp was made in the 1960s, but its style came from another period. You can see the smooth, flowing lines, the shiny silver. There are no symbols or added decorations. This is the modern international style that we sometimes identify as Bauhaus. The lamp was designed by David Heinz Gumbel, who trained as a silversmith in Germany and came to the land of Israel in 1936. The minimalist style that he had studied was not only fashionable then, but also seemed the most appropriate for a country in the making and its modern spirit. So, although one may wonder if there might not be a little problem with adopting the international style for Hanukkah, many designers followed in the footsteps of David Gumbel and his colleagues. This lamp is not only beautiful, but also very functional. It is easy to light it using oil or candles, and it may be taken apart easily for cleaning. Modernist style remains very popular with silversmiths in Israel and abroad. One of the best-known artists who designed Judaica in this style was Zelig Segal, a student of Gumbel. We can see how his Hanukkah lamp from 1993 is even simpler and more minimalist than Gumbel's. It is completely different from the traditional formed lamps, and it also gives the user the opportunity to be involved in altering its shape. The lamp simply consists of 2 bars, each notched with 8 semicircular openings. The bars are made to slide so that the number of round holes can be increased day after day as an additional Hanukkah candle is lit. Segal design creates a lamp reduced to its most essential elements. Segal said that the 2 incomplete halves are in remembrance of the destruction of the temple, and they will be united when the Messiah comes. It is interesting how he can still remind us of the temple even in such basic and modern piece. Around the same time that Zelig Segal made this Hanukkah lamp in Jerusalem, Peter Shire, an American sculptor and designer, made this Hanukkah lamp in Los Angeles. Shire made a few Hanukkah lamps, and this one is the smaller, more conventional one. As you can see, there is no real connection to the Hanukkah story, except perhaps it's very festive. In the early 1990s, Shire was a member of the Milan-based Memphis Group, an international collective that aimed to open up a conversation about the relationship between art and design. So again, we see the influence of international design, and although their anti-modernist style seemed very radical and rebellious in the 90s, today the influence of this postmodern approach can be seen everywhere. Many Hanukkah lamps are colorful and playful and are made from plastic, enamel, or other new materials that have not been used in ceremonial objects in the past. The 21st century brought a more personal expression in design and also in the design of Jewish ceremonial objects. In 2004, Israel Dahan designed this Hanukkah lamp that sticks to the window using magnets. The little receptacles of oil in Dahan's lamp are connected by chains that together form the shape of the menorah. Even though these chains are made of silver, the design comes from the simple chain that soldiers wear around their neck to carry their ID tags. The shape of the receptacles comes from hanging oil lamps that the designer remembers from Morocco, where he was born, and the glass cups in which his mother would light Shabbat candles. So Dahan brings himself, his past, his identity to a very innovative design concept. Thank you for listening. I hope that no matter which sort of Hanukkah lamp you may be lighting this year, you will have a happy and a healthy holiday.
Bravo, Sharon. Thank you very much. This was really beautiful. Thank you very much. We're now open for questions. So you can either open your microphone and ask them directly through Zoom, or if you'd like to ask them questions by chat. And already we're receiving some beautiful responses, Sharon. But I'm waiting for a question. And I can, in the meanwhile, I'll ask you the most difficult question, which I've asked you before. So maybe you're a little bit prepared, I hope. Which is from all these wonderful Chanukiot, and also the one that we have in our storage, which is your favorite, or at least which group of Chanukiot is your favorite?
Well, obviously for the short film, I chose some that I really like Gumbels and Zelig Segars and Israel Dahans. They are really a few of my favorites. We have a huge collection. And from the ones here, there's one from Germany that I showed right at the beginning of the film that I really like. It includes everything, and the architectural shape, the blessings, very little details of silversmithery. Very interesting lamp.
Okay, thank you. Yes, so we'll wait another couple of minutes if we have more questions.
Maybe I'll ask you, Sharon.
Oh.
Question. Yeah. And I understand that there were some communities where they didn't use Hanukkah lamps, Jewish communities in the world. For instance, in Greece, I know that in Salonika and other places, they were not using Hanukkah lamps. Do you have any idea why some of the communities used them and some of the communities didn't use them?
I think generally speaking, what we see here is not really, I mean, all the Hanukkah lamps here are not really the true story, because most Jews were very poor and could not afford having a Hanukkah lamp, even very simple one. So I remember that I heard that some people used to just take a potato and put oil inside, just make little holes and put oil inside and light it. And so it was quite common not to have
a lamp,
elaborate lamp. And in many cases, people just use little glasses, little cups.
Little glasses on the window, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Fantastic. So we have a question from Drew Lowenstein. How many countries are represented in this collection?
We have
many.
Yes, I never counted. That's an interesting question. I think most communities are represented in our collection and also here on this display.
Okay. Ellen is asking if someone wanted to donate a Hanukkah lamp to the museum, how is this done?
Well, we'll be very happy. Wonderful question, yes. You can turn to us, send us photos. We'll be happy to see and consider. Yeah. We have an acquisition committee, of course, but we'll be happy to see.
Yeah. Okay. The British Friends of the Art Museums of Israel, so Befami, I imagine this may be Michelle, maybe? Is asking, what is the oldest menorah that you have in the museum?
I believe we have ancient menorahs in our archaeology wing. And I believe it's not really, as Itzik said, it's not really perhaps a menorah, but in those days they just used the candles, as I showed in the film, just small candles.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, we're receiving more beautiful responses. Wendy says that she's been here many times, but tonight she's really enjoyed the presentation. So thank you very much. This is from Wendy Eisen. Okay, I think we can begin the signing off here. Before we have another song, I want to say a big thank you to all our team. Especially the team at our technical team and the team at the International Relations Department, which produced this evening. And of course, thank you to the whole Israel Museum team for allowing us to bring you these wonderful things. So maybe for another song from Shir before we say some goodbyes, please.
חנוכת מקדשנו, בגיל ובשמחה ממלאים את ליבנו, לילה ויום סביבוננו יסוב, סוף גליות נוכל לערוב. Hanukkah, Hanukkah, come light the menorah, let's have a party, we'll dance the hora, gather round the table, we'll give you a treat, dreidels to play with and latkes to eat, and while we are playing, the candles are burning low. One for each night they shed a sweet light to remind us of days long ago. One for each night they shed a sweet light to remind us of days long ago.
Bravo, bravo, bravo. So thank you everyone for being with us tonight. Thank you for your friendship. Thank you for all you're doing for us each and every night, not only on Hanukkah, all the support you're giving us. And we hope that Hanukkah will bring light and hope, as we mentioned. And really what we're waiting for is that we will be able to see you here with us at the Israel Museum. We're not going away. We're here. The lights are on and waiting for you to come as soon as possible. Thank you very much.
For sure, for next year, we will be able to gather here in this gallery and light the candles when we are all together and see each other in person. All the best to all of you and keep healthy. This is the most important thing.
Yeah. Thank you.